So, of course, abortion was a topic that was discussed in last night's vice presidential debate. And it sort of focused on two areas. Tim Walz talking about Donald Trump's abortion bans, as you would expect, and providing an anecdote that has been debunked, but certainly wasn't going to be challenged by Norah O'Donnell or Margaret Brennan, about a Georgia woman who died after having an abortion, and Amber Thurman, and then J.D. Vance challenged Tim Walz's extremism on abortion as per Minnesota state law on the topic.
Senator?
May I respond to that? First of all, Governor, I agree with you. Amber Thurman should still be alive, and there are a lot of people who should still be alive, and I certainly wish that she was. And maybe you're free to disagree with me on this and explain this to me, but as I read the Minnesota law that you signed into law, the statute that you signed into law, it says that a doctor who presides over an abortion where the baby survives, the doctor is under no obligation to provide life-saving care to a baby who survives a botched late-term abortion. That is, I think, whether you're pro-choice or pro-abortion, that is fundamentally barbaric. And that's why I use that word, Nora, is because some of what we've seen, do you want to force Catholic hospitals to perform abortions against their will? Because Kamala Harris has supported suing Catholic nuns to violate their freedom of conscience. We can be a big and diverse country where we respect people's freedom of conscience and make the country more pro-baby and pro-family. But please.
Well, I mean, this is nothing new. I mean, the Obama administration, Joe Obama terms 1 and 2, they had no problem targeting the Little Sisters of the Poor over Obamacare mandates. So why would they have a problem with Catholic hospitals? And frankly, a lot of Catholics wouldn't. But here's the thing. First of all, on the Minnesota state law, the Daily Signal, which is an outlet of the Heritage Foundation, looked at several years of data from the Minnesota Department of Health. At least 8 babies who survived abortions and were thus born alive were left to die. In fact, during the narrow time frame of January 2021 through December of 2021, 1 year, 5 babies were born post-abortion operation. And of those 5 infants, no one tried to save the first baby, who was born with fetal anomalies, died thereafter. The second and third babies were given unspecified, quote-unquote, comfort care measures on their first and last birthdays. Neither baby survived. The fourth and fifth babies were deemed pre-viable, which is defined as the stage of fetal maturity where there's a much lower probability of survival outside of the uterus. But the range of that is shifting thanks to technological advances. Regardless, no efforts were made to save either baby. So those are actual cases that were legal under Tim Walz's regime in Minnesota because, of course, there were no prosecutions related to any of the conduct with respect to those institutions or the individuals who made those decisions. On Amber Thurman, J.D. Vance should have corrected the record when he said, I'm sorry, Amber Thurman died. She shouldn't have died.
Because the policies that they put in place is the reason why she died.
Well,
because that medical abortion pill was mailed out on a federal level, and that's why she died. She had no information about the harmful drug.
Well, it was 2 things. She did get mifepristone and took the regime associated with that abortifacient. And then she had complications, and it was negligence at the hospital where she presented symptoms because she still had fetal remnants in her system and it was infecting her. They essentially made an improper diagnosis and gave her antibiotics when another procedure would have been appropriate. And any, as has been discussed, any sort of first-year med student would have known this. It's argued. But anyway, she got the abortion and the abortifacient she wanted. She had the abortion. She presented complications. She went to the emergency room. They diagnosed it. It had nothing to do with pro-life laws. It had to do with abortion, drugs, and medical malpractice. Yep. And that should have been made clear by J.D. Vance. The other thing that he did when talking generally about this, and he made this sort of expository offering on being pro-life and pro-family, from, more holistically, to borrow a favorite Kamala Harris word. And essentially said, Republicans have lost the trust of many American women, and he He reflected on the referendum, a pro-abortion referendum that passed in Ohio, and that was a real message sender, or the people of Ohio took a position different than J.D. Vance's. And so they need to do more, the Republican Party, he said, need to do more to sort of win the hearts and minds. And I agree with that, but it felt a little too apologetic for me, and I would have liked a little bit more of the jujitsu we saw from J.D. Vance on other issues like immigration. For more on the topic and others related to the all-important and layered female vote on November 5th, please be joined by Penny Nance, President and CEO of Concerned Women for America. Penny, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Well, my honor, Dan and Amy. I'm so glad to be on with you today, and I'm glad I got to hear that exchange, that you offered a lot of really good information there for your listeners that most people don't know. Could I add just a couple of points there to what you've already said? Number one, you were talking about 8 babies died in Minnesota in 2021, January, December. They changed the law after that to make them stop reporting. So we don't even know how many babies have died as a result of the fact that when they're born in a botched abortion, they leave them to die. And that is barbaric. And certainly I would agree, I would also have said, if I were J.D. Vance, that's also barbaric practice. In a late-term abortion specifically, the dismemberment that happens to a baby in utero, there's nothing compassionate about that. And so what I always do when I'm talking about the issue, I'm debating the issue, I establish right up front. We're talking about two people. We're talking about the mother, but we're also talking about a baby who also has rights, who should have rights. And so I love J.D. Vance. I'm a fellow hillbilly from Appalachia. I endorsed him. But he's, the other side has used this issue as a cudgel. I also wanted to mention for your listeners, and most people don't know this, and this is really just tip of the spear. When we're talking about Ohio and Kentucky and these state ballot initiatives, Melinda Gates gave $1 billion to the abortion industry. That's just one person. We are so outfunded by the other side, and people are like, why haven't you done more? Well, we're doing everything we can. I truly believe over time, now that we have lifted the heavy hand of the judicial branch, and we can actually have a conversation on a state-by-state basis, like for instance in Illinois, your law allows abortion. Nothing changed up into viability. Post-Roe, Illinois is exactly the same. Some states became more pro-life, states like Texas and Oklahoma. Some states became up to birth, like Minneapolis and California and New York and New Jersey. So, it's a really tenuous, difficult issue. I 100% agree and have talked directly to J.D. Vance about one of our top issues, which is creating something called life.gov, which puts online, searchable by zip code and state, all the resources that is available to a woman who's in a difficult situation of pregnancy, trying to decide what to do, worried. So she knows what resources are right now already available to her, public, private, legal and housing and healthcare and job resources and educational grants, all the things that are available. We spend $1 trillion a year in our country on social services. Why can't she find out about that? I would argue the other side doesn't want her to know. And so that's something we're working on. And Marco Rubio has introduced the bill in the Senate, and Diana Harshberger, who's a member from Tennessee, has introduced it in the House. We're moving it forward, and I truly believe in the next year, especially if President Trump wins, that'll be something we'll be able to get done. But we have to take this issue, explain this issue, use the science that we know, that the fact that J.D. Vance talked about 15 weeks. That was really where the conversation has been on a federal level. At 15 weeks, any woman that's had a baby knows that that little baby has all her major organs, can hear and respond to her mother's voice, and can feel pain. There's pictures of her sucking her thumb. This is a child. People that care to know that, and that's an important distinction for people to understand and know. But they talk about us wanting federal law. They want federal law. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are in favor of federal law that strike down any prohibition around the country. That's what they want to happen. They want every state to be California. And so I wish that he had made that point as well.
Well, when we talk about women, women are the most coveted voter bloc in America, and more women have voted than men in presidential elections since, I think you wrote in your piece, 1980. With that said, in these swing states, is there anything else that we could persuade them to care about than just abortion?
Oh, my gosh. Listen, I just got back from being a 10,000-mile bus tour in 12 battleground states all over the country talking to women. And I have to tell you that abortion only came up when we brought it up. That is not the first thing they're thinking about. They're very worried about their own economic situation. They know they're worse off than they were 4 years ago. They know they have less money in real wages. They have less money in their bank account at the end of the month than they had before. And they know that inflation's gone up at least 30%, sometimes more in some food and other resources they need. They're worried about that. And also safety, public safety. And then the other issue that I think has so much power, and I wish that Republicans would talk about it more, and they should, and even the down ballot races. And that is, women are furious that the other side is denying the unique dignity of women, that they're allowing boys into girls' locker rooms, into their safe spaces, in their restrooms, on their sports teams, all the young women who have worked so hard in whatever sport that they're, achieving in, and have given up so much, like Macy Petty on our staff, who is a volleyball player and is put head-to-head with a boy that's physiologically advantage over her. And so we're starting to see movement from that in schools that are saying we're not going to play against a team that is platforming a young man against women. There's legal liability because there have been so many injuries. And women are furious about that. I wish that the Republicans would talk more about it.
I mean, women are always talked about as a monolith, and of course they're not. It's a lot more complicated than that. It's complicated across education level. It's also complicated as it pertains to marriage, and the real deficit that drives the overall deficit Republicans have with women is single women, and particularly single college-educated women. So what do we do about single college-educated younger women?
Well, I think you have to talk to them with respect, and you've got to actually share with them why that it makes a difference for their future. I mean, college-educated women are entering the workforce, and they are providing. They're providing for their families, and they want a future. Most of them, even though the other side tells us it's not true, the vast majority of them want to get married when you look at the numbers. And so you want to talk to them about what that means and what that looks like as a family and providing for a family. They want to buy a home, and just explaining to them basic economics that just like with college education, when the government floods the market with money, that means everything costs more. So a well-intentioned policy of giving a new homeowner $25,000 only means the homes all go up, and usually more than $25,000. And so actually helping them to understand the real policies of economics and speaking to them with the respect that they deserve, and not taking for granted that just because there's a woman running, and I think that women find this offensive, and they should, that we don't care about the policy. It's another woman, therefore we're going to vote for her. That is a lie. If that were true, then Hillary Clinton would have been elected president. Clearly that's false.
Well, it's true. I mean, many of those single women are going to get married, some even to men.
Oh, I
and
know.
So,
Dan, you better watch out.
Yeah, there's that opportunity, I suppose. Penny Nance, President and CEO of Concerned Women for America. Penny, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. On AM 560. The Answer.
October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. As the leader in identity theft protection, LifeLock reminds you to update your passwords. Using the same password across multiple accounts makes you vulnerable to cyber criminals. Updating your passwords is only